Hi there, it's Moira McDonald. Went to see Bothwell Castle, which is a ruined castle in Bothwell, not terribly far away from Hamilton, where I live. The castle itself was originally built in 1242, and as you can see, it's not in a brilliant state now. There's quite a lot of it has collapsed. But having said that, Historic Scotland are currently doing some work to try and at least maintain what is left of the building, because in terms of historical importance, it's a fairly significant building. The chap who was selling the tickets at the entrance had explained to us that if we had a look around at some of the walls, we might notice the indentations of cannonballs having hit the walls. So if you take some time to look closely, you will notice some. I think there's one later on in the slideshow that I'll be able to point out to you that's quite distinctive in terms of looking like a cannonball hole in the building. These are, I mean, I've tried as far as possible to take photographs that didn't show too much of the scaffolding, but sometimes you just couldn't avoid it because there was an entire side that seemed to have scaffolding round about it. That's my husband over in the bottom left-hand corner, by the way. The room he was just about to enter, you'll see some pictures from that in a moment. They had some plaques up round about just explaining a bit about the history of the building, and in terms of its significance. They had some of the kind of stone, the masonry work, if you like, that has been saved but isn't attached to the building any longer. And they also had a number of piles of cannonballs that had been used when there has been war fought between the English and the Scots for control of Bothwell Castle. So this is some of the masonry work here that's been saved thus far. That's just explaining that stonemasons would make a mark to signify that it was them that had cut the stones out, and there's one of the stones with a mark on it there. I'm quite sure in its day it must have been a fairly elaborate building. Clearly it's substantial enough size-wise. So, oh, there's cannonballs there. You can see they're all different sizes. So obviously cannons themselves must have come in a range of sizes too. I was fascinated by that tiny staircase. It's a kind of spiral staircase. I've taken a couple of photographs of it because it was just so small and narrow that you can't help but think, what height were these people? They must have been absolutely tiny to get up and down that. That's the whole room laid out, if you like. We went back outside. There's a bit upstairs that you can go into, which is again outside. There's not really much that they can do because there's no way you could put a roof on anything here. You'll see the scaffolding down there to the left. Oh, can I help this? You know what I'm like, toilet humour. That's the latrine closet, and that's where you do your dirty doos. There was a wee window, I must point out. Not with glass, because obviously in those days they didn't have glass, so it must have been guy cold when you went to the toilet. That's the minstrel's gallery. If you look above it, I think that might be a hole from a cannonball, so the minstrels must have been absolutely duff. I was laughing when I walked round because they quite often talk about the Earl of Douglas, and I thought it's just as well he didn't have a church because he would have been the Kirk of Douglas, being for Scotland. This is where we were standing. You'll see me in a minute because there's a picture of me. Oh, there I am. Hi. Where we were standing, this would have been the kind of the floor where the Great Hall was, if you like, where they would have had their banquets and their parties with the minstrels playing. You'll see the scaffolding there down to the left. There you go, the Earl of Douglas again. It's, I mean, it was a fascinating building. The most magnificent ruin in Scotland, and it quite possibly is. I've only ever seen one other ruined castle, and that was in Dunblane. And by comparison, it was nothing relative to this. This was much, much better. This still had enough left of it that was, you could see what it was or what it had been. When we left, we had a wander round the outside, but the chap had explained to us that be very careful when you go round, because there's a bit where there is effectively what is like a sheer drop down to the river below. So you had to, especially since it was wet today, you had to be very, very careful. I think that might be a tributary of the River Clyde running down the bottom there. This is just a couple of pictures of the outside, the view from the place. It's in a beautiful, beautiful grounds, frequented by a number of dog walkers, I have to say, because we met hundreds of people that were out with their dogs. But it was an absolutely lovely place. There's a wee group of kids there going in to have a look round the castle. And that's the well outside, or what would have been the well. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for joining me. Bye.